So good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I want to dedicate the shiur לרפואת אוהד אהרון יצחק אמזלג, בן אליס. I want to talk today about bugs and microorganisms, and a little bit about antibiotics, and to explain to you, hopefully by the end of this session, that you will know a little bit more why it's actually useless to be scared and worried from bugs, germs, bacteria, viruses, and why this theory we hope that will get refuted soon, and people will start understanding the depth of the things. So I think that the first person who started this theory was Louis Pasteur. Was in the 18 something. He actually saw under the microscope that every time there was a wounded tissue or a group of cells that were wounded, there were bugs or germs or bacteria around them, right? The fact that they were there wasn't there was no real establishment of any connection between causation. So there wasn't any proof of causation. There was correlation, but we need to understand the difference between causation and correlation. So he saw bugs and bacteria and viruses, or whatever you want to call it. He saw these microorganisms getting multiplicated very quickly, but his theory was established around the fact that the germs were there in the first place to cause the harm for the tissue. So he was concluding causation, but he ignored the fact that there was, maybe he didn't ask, I think, as the same as we do today with other diseases, that we don't ask why. I think that's one of the issues with science, that they don't ask why about a lot of things. They don't ask why because they say that it's not a scientific question, or maybe because they don't know how to find out the why. Because our senses, if you think about science is actually the interaction of our senses with nature. That's what science is all about. So our senses are limited, obviously, and they are subjective. But once you're trying to understand nature only through humans and through their senses, you have to accept that you are limited. As opposed in Judaism, in Judaism, the Torah is Hashem is telling us what's going on in nature, why. He tells us the why and the what and the when and everything. Like we know it says in many places in the Torah, it says, Im shamoa tishmuu b'chukotai tilchu takshivu lemitzvotai. He's promising that if we listen to his laws and we hear his commandments and we follow his rules, we will get no harm coming to us. So it's repeated many times in the Torah. So the Torah is Hashem, is the Creator, is telling us what's going on, what are the rules, how to obey them, what needs to be done. And science is human being trying to find out what's going on. So the problem with science is that they don't deal with the why. So if you don't understand why things are happening, then at least you have to accept that your treatment must be limited. And we all heard this many times before, that medications are treating the symptoms. Now it sounds like it sounds like it's imperfect, but I think we don't get to the bottom of how stupid it really is to deal with the symptom. Stupid, maybe it's not the right word, how harmful it is to deal with the symptom. So the symptom has nothing to do with the cause. Yeah. So if you understand that, we'll go back to Louis Pasteur when he saw these germs around his wounded tissue. Okay, the bug is there, the germs are there, the viruses are there, but the question, why are there? Why are they there? What are they doing there? It's a question that they're not dealing with up till today, even though if it was, over 100 years ago. Yeah, so you can say it's old-fashioned, it's very old, but up till today, they're still not asking the correct questions. And we know that when we want to learn and we want to progress, we have to learn how to ask intelligent questions. And I think this is something that the science is lacking. To ask intelligent questions is something that needs to be, you need to be intelligent in order to ask an intelligent question. So the question that needs to be asked, why are they there and what was there first? Were the germ first, or was the wounded tissue, was there first? And what we are finding out, according to natural hygiene, what we are actually saying, that every time that you can see it in food, you can see it in vegetables and fruit. Every time you cut something, you cut an apple into half, it starts to get oxidized, get brown, get rot. But if you leave the apple whole, it's going to be a completely different process. It's going to get shrink, the fluid's going to come out like we create raisins from grapes. If you cut the grape into half, then you're never going to get raisins, because you cut the tissue, you created wounds in that live tissue. Then from this point onwards, the germs that's going to come, they just grow on that tissue, and they're only doing their job. Their job, if we're thinking of going back to creation, we know that everything that's happening is happening for a good reason, and everything is planned according to a very accurate, specific, clever plan. So their role in the cycle of life is to bring back the elements back to the earth. Without germs, bacteria, and viruses, without these microorganisms, we will never ever recycle. We will never be able to recycle anything. When a plant finished its function, it get rotten, and it falls down on the soil, and the elements that needs to go back to the soil are being broken down by microorganisms. This is their job. The same with animals, the same with human beings. This is the job of this microorganism. Without them, it's never going to be recycling. We'll never going to be able to regain these. I mean, the plants that died, it's going to go back to the soil, and something else will grow from that. And then a cow will come and eat the grass, or I don't know, or a horse will come and take that apple, and then that's how you get the cycle of life rolling in nature, through plants, through animals, through human beings. So by killing the germs, what you're doing, you actually prevent. I mean, if let's say hypothetically, we'll destroy all microorganisms on the planet, can you guess what's going to happen? It's going to be horrendous. It's going to be devastating to humanity and to all life forms on Earth. So and us as human beings, we have more bacteria and microorganisms than human cells. And there are so many different viruses and microorganisms and bugs on the planet. They weigh more than all the animals and the plants. Their mass is so high. So when we start to think about the big picture and not just the bugs underneath Louis Pasteur microscope, we need to look at the big picture in order to try to find out what's going on here. And what we find out is that they have a crucial role in life. Now, is there a bad bag, or a good bag, or a good bag, or a bad? It's not a good or a bad. It depends. Every bag and every microorganism is programmed to work on a certain substance. Okay, so the real question is, what are they doing there? Yeah, why are they there? Are they causing the problem, or they're just helping something? They're participating in something. And this is what we find out, that if as I said with the grapes and the raisins, if the grapes will not be cut, if the grapes will stay whole, you will get raisins. You're not gonna lose them. They're not gonna rot. They're not going to get oxidized, because no germs and no bacteria, they can jump from one place to another. They are everywhere. You can wash your hand as many times as you want. You can use antibacterials as much as you want. They are everywhere. They're all the time. They're all over the place, and there are tons of millions and billions and trillions of them in your guts, everywhere, in every surface. So, but when they don't have anything to do, when they don't have any substance to work on, they just vanish, they just die, and they grow. We don't know whether they are plants or animals, because there's something in between a plant or an animal or a being, but there are something that is alive. They just grow on that tissue whenever they sense that there is something that needs to be done. They are the cleaners, basically. Excuse me. So it's like having a pile of compost. Have you ever seen a pile of compost that it has all these steams coming up because there is a chemical reaction inside of them? Yeah. When you have a pile of compost, things are breaking down into these elements. You have a lot of flies or things are flying around it because of the smell. They get attracted to all that elements that's in there. So killing the germs is like spraying the flies on the compost. This is what it actually does. When you're taking antibiotics, when you're treating the germs and the bugs, what you're doing, instead of asking what are the flies doing and what is attracting them to be there, you're spraying them, you're killing them. Yeah, you're using some kind of of pesticides or herbicide or whatever. It's not pesticides, not herbicide, but something to kill the germs, for instance antibiotics. You are not getting rid of the actual problem, which is the compost. The compost was the problem. The compost was the toxins that were there, that were attracting the bacteria or the germs. That was the cause. That was the source. When you're spraying the flies, you're not dealing with the problem. You may have some industrial, you have some like a peace of mind. You won't see them, you won't hear them, but the compost is still there. When you have infection in your body, infection or inflammation, it's a healing process. It's a very, very clever process that the body is creating, and we know that everything that the body does is always the best thing for you, even if it looks bad, if it feels horrible, if it sounds awful, if it's painful. Everything that the body does, we don't understand most of what the body does, but yet we are allowing ourselves to interact and interfere with so many important processes that goes on in the body. Everything that the body does is doing for the best of the organism. So inflammation or infection, it's literally toxins that the body is trying to deal with. Okay, you have a runny nose. You're not blowing your nose properly. You're not clearing these toxins out. It goes to a deeper level. Yeah, it goes up to your lungs or your. So you're trying to cough to take it out. Yeah, and you have horrible cough and it's painful and you're coughing like 30 days. Instead of trying to understand what's going on and supporting, actually, when you cough, if you're not going to eat, it's going to be less painful. If you make sure that you rest and you drink, it's going to be very, very easy to handle. But when you eat, it's harder, and especially if you eat the wrong food and if you eat too much. So if you understand that the cough is not the problem, stopping the cough is like spraying the flies on the compost. The cough is there to help you spit it out.
Yeah.
No, spit it out.
Yeah, phlegm.
Yeah, when you take, it's not just antibiotics. Some they give you like syrups or remedies. What they're doing is they work on the brain to reduce your breathing pace. This is very, very serious stuff.
It's very wrong, very unhealthy.
It's very wrong because reducing your breathing pace through working on your brain, it's a medication that works on the center of the breathing in your brain, is literally not understanding what's going on. But they still do it. They do it for children, they do it for adults. So when you don't ask the right questions, you are doomed to make huge mistakes. So taking antibiotics, taking a syrup for cough, it's literally spraying these flies instead of trying to clear the garbage out from your garden, or if it's annoying you, let's say you don't want the pile of rubbish there, instead of clearing the rubbish from there, you're spraying the cleaners. You're just going to cause more and more damage. Now you have the cleaners' dead bodies to clear out as well. And if you're talking of in the human body, when you are suppressing symptoms, you're causing more troubles because the body was trying to talk to you, the body was signaling to you, here there is a problem, and you say, shh, take this and be quiet. What you're creating long-term depression. That's how you create chronic disease or degenerative diseases. Actually, what we say in natural hygiene, it's a sentence that I like to use it because sometimes it's so shocking, but it does have so much logic in it. Chronic disease is an acute disease that was suppressed successfully. So you had that runny nose, you had that mucus in your nose, you suppress it successfully by not treating the cause, but not letting the body take it out. You took a syrup, you took antibiotics, you ate the wrong food, you didn't rest. You create a chronic disease. If you do it over and over and over again, every few weeks, every few months, the body will try to shout again, and you said no. You go to the doctor and say, oh, it's another attack. Let's give another lot of antibiotics. That's how you create chronic disease. That's how you create asthma or lung infection, because we don't need to die from infectious diseases, because they in a healthy, clean, well-functioning body, germs are unemployed. They don't have job. They don't have anything to do. They don't have anything to work with because everything is clean. All the toxins, all the garbage are always quickly clear out and cleanse out from your system. They're not going to thrive. They're not going to last. They're just going to be unemployed and they're just going to vanish. So we don't need to worry about infectious diseases. All we need to worry about is keeping our system clean and functioning all the time. So when Louis Pasteur said that the bugs are the problem, he was actually looking at the cleaners instead of trying to ask himself what was the problem in the first place, which was these wounded tissues, these wooden dead cells or wounded cells. That was the problem. And up till today, is still. We are hearing here and there. I mean, we know in the Netherlands they don't use a lot of antibiotics. They hardly give antibiotics. There are some countries that they reduce, but they reduce it from the wrong reasons. They reduced it because they came up with that idea, which is true, that because we overuse it, the bugs develop mutation that makes them more resilient to the medication. That's the wrong reason. I mean, every time we deal with nature in the wrong way, we'll get another problem. So that's the problem we created in nature when we overused antibiotics. Apart from the people who got it wrong and developed chronic diseases, which we don't discuss because they don't understand. I mean, the medical establishment, they don't understand what a chronic disease is. They call it an autoimmune disease. It's something that went wrong in your brain. They don't have it's genetic. They don't have explanation to chronic diseases. And today they're happening in childhood or in infants as well. I mean, some kids, some babies are born with kidneys issues. I mean, in 18 months, they have kidneys issues. So they're going back to genetics again. So because they're not asking the right questions, because they're not having intelligent questions, they keep like turning off fires. They have fire instead of trying to do. And that's the key of preventive medicine. When you are dealing with preventive medicine, you have your brain here, you can think, you can breathe, you can plan, you can be creative. When you're just turning off fires, you're just dealing with emergencies all the time. You're not thinking properly, you're not being logic, you're operating out of fear, and you're usually doomed to make serious mistakes. And in nature, as we know, nature is complete, and it was created so cleverly in such a perfect way that if you're doing the wrong things, you actually, in some ways, you're creating problems that it's very, very hard to reverse. I mean, if we change the biome, the environment in terms of bacteria and genes and things that we do today in laboratories, then some of the things are irreversible. Because every time you are bringing things that are unnatural into a natural environment, you're using the wrong tools. Sometimes you can't reverse it. So it is useless to treat the germs, the bacteria, with it doesn't matter what kind of medication you're taking. It's best to cleanse your body, to cleanse it with rest and water. Try to avoid consuming more things that are mucus forming, and don't worry about the germs, because without them, we're not going to be able to survive another generation. I mean, maybe not another generation, but we're not just thinking about us. And this is what we do when we're giving so much antibiotics. We don't think about the next generations that will not be, maybe in some cases, if you are about to die, I mean, you're literally about to die because you can't handle the toxins and you don't want your body to clear these toxins. I can't really think about the situation when I will personally choose to take antibiotics, because I know it's not really treating the cause. But we don't, I mean, even when sometimes we go to GPs and we have a virus and we know that antibiotics doesn't kill the virus, we still get antibiotics even to lower your temperature. So we get antibiotics for so many things. And I just want to remind you.
You refused to give me a few weeks ago.
Just a minute. I want to remind you that what the data is saying, that 80% of the antibiotics that is produced globally is given to livestock.
That's right.
80%. We eat, and we don't want to have ourselves prescribed with antibiotics. But if we eat animal products, we are getting antibiotics.
Yeah.
So that's a big problem. And they just give it to them because they're raising them in horrible conditions, when they are very, very cramped and crowded, and they're sick, and they don't have because they want to sell it in a reasonable price, because we're consuming so much animal product today. So many people, I mean, it's so cheap. In order to make it so cheap, somebody needs to pay the price. And who is paying the price? These animals. And how do they, I mean, with raising them very quickly in very cramped area, it has to be a quantity over quality. So 80%, it's serious. So if you're thinking you're not taking antibiotics, but you're still having animal products, then you might want to consider what you want to put in your plate, because you're consuming it. Organics shouldn't have antibiotics in it.
Somebody tried to bring in kosher chicken, but it didn't work out.
Yeah, it's very, very. The problem is if we, I mean, there is a solution obviously for that, and it's to try to build relationship rather with the pharmaceutical companies and the GPs, to trying to have relationship with the farmers, with the growers. I mean, we were educated to think that we can't do anything without pharmaceuticals. We can't move, we can't raise anything, we can't grow anything. We have to have these I mean, in some cases, they even saying that I've just read it yesterday. In 2016, the American Association of Pediatricians, they wrote in one of their journals that breast milk, if we market breast milk as something that is natural, it might lead people to believe that natural is better than artificial, and we don't want to do that. Because they believe, I can try to send it to, I can try to track this actual journal, but I read it in my own eyes. It says that it's against the principles of human health. When you are when you stemming from the belief that natural is healthier, it's wrong. Because they are saying that you have to, I mean, there is an advantage for commercial food over organic food. They're actually saying that. And they're actually saying that, I mean, also they talked about vaccination. They talked about the fact that mothers, if the mother believes that the breast milk is going to immune her baby, she might be prone to reject vaccines, and this is something that they don't want us to think about. So in a way, they believe that natural things that are naturally happening, they're not the best thing for human health.
No, because we might have independent food.
Yeah, so that's a problem. It's not conspiracy. It's stated black on white in the newspaper. This is where they're coming from. And they just educating us in a way, and it starts not just today, to believe that we can't handle ourselves without medication, without pesticides, without herbicides, and there are we know that there is divide and conquer. You know the term divide and conquer, Afred Umshol. They're dividing us from our farmers, that we have to build relationship with them, to support them, and in that sense we are so disconnected from nature. We're more dependent on pharmaceutical companies, and Monsanto is creating Roundup and pesticides and herbicide, and slowly and surely we are just creating more and more and more problems. And I've heard not once people are saying that they don't trust nature because nature is cruel and you can't handle nature. And I'm just thinking to myself, maybe these poor people are victims from that paradigm, from that paradigm that we've been brainwashed so many times that, nature is crazy. Look at what happens. And there's so many fake news about, death and infection. I'm just checking it in the last 4 weeks or 5 weeks. I've been checking things that I grew up to think that, they're probably facts and truth. And I'm just, the more I look at, the more I see that we are just being programmed to shy away from nature and to be fully dependent on things that are artificial, and some of them have to do with pharmaceutical. I'm sorry, but pharmaceutical companies are the strongest lobbies in Washington, and they are affecting the UK. They're affecting globally. It's all, they're very, very, very powerful. So if we're still thinking that there's no corruption and there's no fake news and there's no then we don't know what really is. If they're saying, just for me, it's a huge problematic thing if they're saying that a woman shouldn't go straight blindly to breastfeeding because it might shy her off vaccination, or we shouldn't go to organic first and we must consider GMOs because GMO, it's better because it's more advanced and it's more developed. And then, if you have some brain left, then you must see that something is very fishy here. And let's see if this book is here. I try to just, there was a book here that I bought, and in the preface of the book, the author is not a physician, but I'm not the kind of person who says that only physician should have the right to say anything about health or medicine. They have the same head and the same brain as we do, and they don't learn health. They learn
Solutions.
They learn. I mean, I've heard it yesterday from one of the physicians. He said he's a medical doctor, and he said that in medicine, in medical school, they don't learn health. They don't have any health subject that they learn. The closest thing that they learn the closest thing to health is physiology, which physiology is basically understanding how the body works. You remember that book that you saw here, how the body works, how the cells are getting oxygen, and how the kidneys eliminating toxin. So they understand how processes are happening. I mean, they don't understand why, they just understand the what. This is the closest thing they learn to health and healing. And from that point onwards, what they've been learning is how to help the body, if they have a disease, how they can manage it. They're not talking about reversing. They're not talking about healing. They're talking about managing and controlling. This is what actually pharma is doing, is managing symptoms and controlling disease. That's the point. And so if you come to a physician, he gave that example. If you come to your GP and you said, I have these issues, but I really don't want you to give me any more medication. The GP doesn't have the infrastructure to talk to you. The dialogue stops. They don't have the infrastructure to accommodate what you just said. They lose you there immediately. Because the only tools they have is operations and medication. So you go to the doctor with diabetes, you said, I have diabetes, or I've been diagnosed with diabetes. You leave the GP office with medication and diabetes. You don't leave the office without diabetes and medication. You leave the office, you leave his office with diabetes and medication for the rest of your life. What he will tell you is that they probably will be able to control the sugar levels and maybe to prolong your life in a way, but there's no healing occurring, and they can't. And then you will get another medication to deal with the side effects of that medication. So there's no really healing happening in that establishment. Because again, we're not asking the right question. So I'm just thinking to myself, if we can't even, and I know in my own eyes that if you treating the cause, if you removing the cause, you be healed from diabetes. I mean, I've seen it. It's not something that it's not a miracle. I mean, I've seen people getting healthy, completely healthy, from cancer, from arthritis, from all sorts of diseases, from hypertension, from all sorts of diseases that are considered to be today deadly, or autoimmune diseases, or things that we don't know how they've been, even things that you can't really imagine how we still think that are irreversible. I've seen people getting much better, even from type 1 diabetes. People are so for me it's a big flag to say, okay, so why do I find it so hard to believe that treating lungs infection with antibiotics is wrong? I've seen people reversing hypertension, so we can't treat a cough properly. It's because you're not asking these intelligent questions. You're not, and what I was trying to say about the book, it was a father who wrote this book, and the book calls, what's the name of the book? Dare to Question. The name of the book is Dare to Question. And I know that if you, from my experience, if you dare to question in a polite, respectful way, you've been looked at, I don't know, stupid, rude. I've just had a conversation yesterday with a mum that she's very, very worried for her daughter, and this daughter was born with a defect in her heart, so she passed 3 operations already. And every time she has something, I mean, the mother is so worried because she's not in the boundaries of nature anymore. And they already, they've done something there. So even though I've taught her a lot of things about natural health, and she had things happening with other kids in her family that she saw the reverse, she saw the health, she saw the process, and she believes 100% with the teaching of natural health. With her, she's worried because it's a birth defect, and she says, well, she's not in the boundaries of nature anymore. And she had some issues with her, so she went to a cardiologist to see, because the girl was, she was blue in her toes and in his fingers, so she wasn't oxidizing well. And he said to her, he was giving her some diagnosis that she needs to have some kind of an operation. So she already had 3 operations, and still. So the mom was, she was asking questions, and he told her, I can sense that you're not trusting me. So I call it emotional blackmail. I mean, if it's not about trust, I mean, it's about science. I don't need to trust you. I need to know what the science is telling you. So they get offended because we're not trusting them. And and she said, I only want the best for your child. And she said to him, I want the best for my child even more than you. So why you don't? I mean, it's not that they don't trust him. I mean, she didn't say that, but I'm thinking to myself, it's not that I don't trust you. You might be wrong. It's not because you're a bad person. It's because there are a lot of things that you're just following protocols because this is the best thing you were able to come up with. But unfortunately, they take it personally, and they look at you as an alien that is rejecting the mainstream, that you're crazy and you don't have any diploma. I've seen it in my own eyes. I've heard it in my own ears, that if you're not a physician, and apparently if physicians, and why do I know that it's wrong? Because even if you are a physician and you're asking questions, you get alienated from the mainstream. So there are physicians globally that were asking these clever questions, that were asking these intelligent questions, and they've been just alienated. I mean, some of them, the license was banned. I mean, it's such a hard system to. It's not scientific anymore. It's it's a proper religion. So he said, dare to question. In the beginning of the book, he said, the information in this book, there's a warning. The information in this book might require you to think for yourself. Please ask your doctor if thinking for yourself is good for you. It's horrible, but most of us operate in that level. And I feel that the outcome of that is devastating to humanity. I don't want to minimize the effect, because I think, and this is my life mission, is to bring the truth out, is to help people bring the power to the people. And this divide and conquer is horrible to us. We lost connection with ourselves. We lost connection with nature. I don't know what we're working for. I mean, probably not working for the truth anymore. We're operating from fear. We're operating from bad, distorted habits.
Misinformation.
Obviously, misinformation, being brainwashed. And because if you think about it, we don't have problem of hygiene anymore. I mean, I've seen a program the other day that the pharmaceutical companies was saying, some data and statistics was saying that vaccines save humanity, because the moment vaccines were introduced, then the death rates reduced sharply, and it's because of vaccines. It's because of and he said, let me show you what actually caused this stop of death, and he just saw a picture of a toilet flushed. So this is what helped us when we didn't have a toilet properly. We didn't have clean water, access to clean water. That was the shift when all infection and diseases just sharply stopped. We still see this in third world countries where they don't have access to clean water. They still have access to vaccines, but they still have horrible deaths from infection diseases because they're not treating the cause. Every time you're not treating the cause, you're getting to wrong conclusion, you're killing people, you're harming people. It's not something small. I'm talking about things that are in very, very large scale, that we've been brainwashed to think that this is what's saving us. And the more we going far away, the more we shy away from nature. And people say, oh, you can't eat naturally because the soil is corrupt. The soil has you have to have supplements because it's the same paradigm. It's the same thinking of there's not enough. I mean, there's not enough minerals in the soil, so you have to have supplements.
Yeah, can I ask you about this?
Not now. And this is all stemming from the same thinking that you can't trust your breast. You can't trust your breast milk. You have to get formula because formula is probably better than your breast milk. You have to take vaccines because the antigens and the antibodies that your body will be able to work with and to immune itself is not enough in the breast milk because who eats good today? I mean, what kind of person have a balanced diet? No one. So let's supplement you. Let's vaccinate you. So they minimize your capacity to heal yourself. They minimize your capacity to make the right decision, to educate yourself. It's all divide and conquer. All the knowledge is just concentrated in a very small group, and their only tools are medication and cutting organs. I don't call it healing. I mean, cutting an organ there's no healing there. It's just technology. Tying things, cutting things, removing your bladder, removing your.
Sometimes they have to.
Sometimes they have to, but if I was such a clever person as they are presenting themselves to be, I would invest all my might, all my effort, and all my wits in preventive medicine. Why does only a stupid person lead themselves to a position that they don't have anything else to do apart from removing an organ? If you're so smart, I mean, we were able to launch a spaceship. We were very clever. If we're so clever that we can do triple bypass operation, why can't we just get to the root of the problem and do preventive medicine, help people to want to be healthy, help people to want to have a healthy diet, help people to want to be off medication and to smile and to handle, the difficulties of life. And not just, okay, you're stupid, you're doomed, just let me manage you, this craziness that you have, let me just give you some more chemicals. They don't believe in nutrition. I've heard it from first. My doctor told it to me when I became vegan. I said, I'm going vegan. I want to stop my thyroid medication. He said, I never heard there is a connection between diet and your glands. And that's for me was, I mean, what creates your blood if not your food? The blood that circles in every single cell, that brings oxygen and sugar to every single cell. What creates this blood? I mean, every 90 days you have new blood cells. I mean, all your bloodstream is new. It's completely new. Every 12 months, 90% of your body cells are completely new. So what is the makeup of these new cells apart from the food you eat? So how can you say that food has not? They don't believe in nutrition. That's why they don't even learn nutrition in medical school. So I know it's shocking, and you can see that I'm very tense about it because it's causing. You talked about unnecessary death or unnecessary problems or unnecessary illnesses. It's literally unnecessary. It's man-made. I mean, and I hate to live in a world when there are man-made diseases that we can stop.
There's so much ignorance. You go to the supermarket, they're filling their trolleys with, Coca-Cola. I just
before you go, if you have any question before you go, I will take your question. I will answer it to the group, and maybe you will be able to listen to the question. So if you have any question about what we discussed today, you don't. Okay.
Oh, fine, I'm sorry, I have to watch.
Okay.
Just-
Any other questions?
I know people in the health business, and they do it sincerely. I was told that we're short in this country selenium, and they sell selenium. Bye-bye, Sharon. Sharon.
Selenium. Yeah. Thank you for coming.
I was given to understand that in this country, we have the lowest level of selenium intake. For whatever reason, it just doesn't grow.
Okay.
It isn't there in English soil. So people buy selenium
supplements. Okay.
What do you say about that? Do you?
I don't know. I only know one thing that.
May I?
So the question was, I'm just repeating the question. The question was, there are some rumors going on. I don't know. I mean, I don't know where these news are coming from. I don't know, because I want to make sure they're coming from the right source. If they're coming from someone who's going to make money out of selling me that product, then I have to take it with a pinch of salt. I have to, because I can't trust every information that comes to my hand. So the question was, I'm just repeating the question. The question was, people are saying, or there's some discussion about the lack of selenium in the soil in the UK, and therefore we need to take supplements of selenium.
Or Brazil nuts, I believe. Brazil nuts. If you take 3 to 5